Okay, who is enjoying the show today? Everybody? Okay, you're enjoying the show. That's good. So I will tell you a little about myself as we see if this works. No, not yet. But I work all over the globe. So my home is in San Francisco. That's where I run our global venture builder. But we also work all across Asia. We have a big presence in China. We have incubators across China. We work with lots of companies there. We work in Singapore. We work in South Korea, Taiwan. And then we are just setting up right now in Dubai. So I will be here working in Dubai. My goal is I help fund startups, but I also help startups grow. And then I work with a lot of large corporations, global corporations, like I've worked with Intel, Huawei, Bosch, Qualcomm, and here we go. Okay, at last, I could stop. And I am the author of these books. So my first book, Make Elephants Fly, is all about the process of radical innovation. It's how startups innovate and how large corporations innovate. Surviving a startup is all about everything you need to know about doing a startup. And I did 3 venture-funded startups in Silicon Valley myself, so I know how hard it is to do a startup and what it takes to succeed. And then the 5 forces is what we're going to be talking about today. That is new technologies that are emerging in laboratories around the world and how they are going to affect all of us in the future. This includes connecting your brain to the internet, artificial intelligence, gene editing software, nanotechnology, and other core technologies. So, let's begin. Will you have a chip in your brain someday? Well, if Elon Musk has his way, everybody will have a chip, and one of his chips. But I'm not sure that's what I want. And after today's talk, I'll let you decide what you want. So, the human brain, our brains, are essentially the same as cave dweller brains. It hasn't changed that much in the past 100,000 years. We have the same brain structure. You can imagine people living in caves and what their world was like, and then you go to modern times and what our world is like. Nobody living in a cave could imagine what we're doing today. They would have no conception, even 100 years ago, about how a mobile phone could change our lives and what people do in their jobs today. Like our jobs today go back 100, 200 years. Nobody could conceptualize, the jobs we have. So you think about it. Our brains are very malleable. Our brains can change a lot. We feed our brains new information. We create a new reality. Our brains adapt. That is one of the key characteristics of human intelligence. At Duke University, they have been experimenting with brain-computer interfaces. So this monkey has a chip in its brain, and with a chip in its brain, it can control a robotic arm and feed itself. With a chip in its brain, it could drive a wheelchair around and actually navigate. So monkeys can do it. Of course, people can do it. So what we're going to see is the ability for our brains to literally control the devices and technology around us directly, just by thinking. This isn't science fiction. It's a fact. It works in the laboratory. It'll work when we take it out into real life. Now, this is a really interesting experiment. They have 2 rats, and one rat was trained that when a light goes on, it presses the right lever and it gets rewarded with sweet food. The other rat in another city had its brain connected to this rat through the internet. When this rat figured something out, even though it took this rat a long time to figure this out, the other rat instantly gained that knowledge. It instantly understood how to hit the lever when the light goes on and get food. So what just happened there? In this experiment, they proved that you can transfer knowledge from one living brain to another living brain instantly, something the other rat had learned. If we can do this in rats, we can do this in humans. We can literally transfer knowledge, learned knowledge. Now, in this experiment, they have a human. He doesn't have a chip in his brain. He has an EEG, a non-invasive brain-computer interface that's reading his brain waves, and he is able to control the rat. He is able to make the rat's tail go up and down. The rat has a chip in its brain. They are connected through the internet. They even found that a human being can guide a rat through a maze. Through a maze. And the interesting thing, and the scary thing, the rat didn't even know it was being controlled. The rat thought that its actions were its own volition, were its own decision. But actually, the rat was being controlled through a brain-computer interface. Now, we have brain-computer interfaces in people. This is at Brown University. This woman is completely paralyzed, but with a brain-computer interface, she can control a robotic arm and feed herself. They have also developed brain-computer interfaces now, it was just announced last month, that can literally read the language in your head, understand what you're saying, and actually send what you're thinking through the internet to other people. People can message each other, people can control applications, all of this with a chip in your brain. It's in the laboratory now. So, at UC Davis, and this is my hometown, University of California, Davis, they have actually developed algorithms, AI algorithms, that can put your thought into speech with 97% accuracy. That's pretty good. So whatever you're thinking, they can read your thoughts and put it into speech. At Berkeley, they did an experiment where they have an fMRI machine. An fMRI machine reads the blood flow through your brain. And by reading the blood flow through your brain, they could actually capture images of what you're seeing, what you're thinking in your mind. You know, we all have images in our mind, little movies that are playing. They were actually able to capture that. Now, they captured it at a low resolution, but it's just a matter of time before they up the resolution, so you could literally extract information from your mind. They're doing that. So you can, in the future, you can imagine a scenario where you witness a crime and you go into the police station and they literally pull the images from your brain of what you saw. So where are we headed with this technology? Well, where we're headed is we will have brain-computer interfaces, but most likely these won't be chips. Most likely when these go mass market, mass adoption, they will be what's called non-invasive brain-computer interfaces, meaning they are wearable. It's a wearable device. You may wear it on your forehead. You may wear it behind your ear. They have these devices. You can go on Amazon now, and you can buy a brain-computer interface. But the ones you buy today are very primitive. They can literally only do a few things. They can measure whether you're concentrating or you're not concentrating. So they're used for meditation or relaxation, like biofeedback, telling you if you're relaxed or if you're concentrating. They can do things that are very simple, like binary controls, like turning off and on the lights or advancing a PowerPoint presentation. But in the future, these technologies will be developed to the point where they can actually communicate two ways to the internet. That is where we're headed. And companies are investing in this. Facebook has put a lot of money into brain-computer interfaces. Mark Zuckerberg has a secret project going on where he's been investing in this technology. Google has been investing in it. Microsoft's investing in it. Huawei is investing in it. These companies know that once we actually get a brain-computer interface that works seamlessly, it is going to replace our phones. And what we're going to see, my prediction, is we're going to see brain-computer interfaces that literally take advantage of AI. So we can see AI now, we can talk to AI, we can have conversations, and we can almost use AI, like ChatGPT, as an operating system. So we're going to see generative AI combined with brain-computer interfaces, combined with the cloud infrastructure to give us our next generation direct-to-brain operating system. So will schools of tomorrow look like this? In schools, this is actually a test that's being done right now to measure whether students are learning. But in schools of tomorrow, we may not need classrooms, because if you can upload and download information, you're not going to need to go to school to do that. People can start learning from a very young age on their own, directly through the internet. Another advancement we're going to see is what I call multimodal reality. So what is multimodal reality? So this is when we have brain-computer interfaces that are powerful enough to actually stimulate in our mind images that are from the internet. So we could take any digital images and actually directly generate them in our imagination so that we see them over the real world. And if you feel this is science fiction, I need to educate you. So when we see through our eyes, we are not seeing what's actually there. When we look through our eyes, we are actually creating the image we see based on our expectations. So our brains actually fabricate everything around us. Our eyes are not video cameras. Our eyes capture data, but then our brain fills in everything. It actually fills in all the blanks. And just like when you dream, in the future, with brain-computer interfaces, we will be able to layer content and images and audio and sensation over everything we do. This is where we're headed. So they did another experiment at Duke University, and this experiment is fascinating. So they took 3 monkeys. Each of these monkeys could only see in 2 dimensions. They could see only a 2-dimensional screen. But the 3 monkeys, in order to get a reward, they had to move a computer icon to a 3D location. How do you move something in 3D when you can only see 2D? How can you do that? Well, what they did was they networked all 3 of these monkeys' brains together. They had a chip in every monkey's brain. And within a very short amount of time, the 3 monkeys learned to move in 3 dimensions. They could actually do it and get their reward over and over and over. How did the monkeys do it? If you asked the monkeys, they wouldn't even know they were networked together. They wouldn't know their brains were connected. But what happened is when their brains were wired together, their brains actually began to collaborate together on a subconscious level. So what does this mean for humanity? What does this mean for us when all of our brains someday are wired together? It means that our brains will begin to collaborate, to solve problems, to cooperate on a subconscious level that we might not even be aware of. It means that human beings like us, right now our brains are isolated from everybody else. We communicate, but through the internet, through our talking. But when we're wired together, we could create a brain net, a super brain, that is a function of every brain connected to this. And then you go a step further. So you ask yourself, when our brains are connected, what type of information could we transfer to each other? Well, we could transfer knowledge, we already know that. But could we transfer memories? Could we transfer memories? Probably. We can capture the images, we could digitize them, we could send them from one brain to another. It's not just the images, it's the audio, the sensations. We could send those. How about emotions? Could we transfer an emotion from one human being to another? So let's say your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or wife. Could you actually feel that person's emotions? You know, right now, human beings, we can't feel anybody's emotion. We only feel our own emotion. Like if you are in love with somebody, you feel your love and you believe that they feel the same love back for you. But it's a belief. In the future, we may be able to actually tap into somebody and feel their love, feel their different emotions that they have. What would the world be like when we can do this? Well, we may find out. The one thing we have to be careful of in the future, and I think this is a real concern, is it's one thing for people to hack your identity, to steal your identity, maybe steal your credit card information, steal your ID, impersonate you. But what happens when people can hack into your brain? What does that mean? How do we secure the brain? Is there a blockchain of the future or some sort of technology that we use to encrypt our own thoughts so that other people can't access them, so that we have control? Do big corporations like Elon Musk's, when they distribute these brain-computer interfaces, do they have access to our brains just like they have access to all the data on our phones right now? You know, we have no privacy on our phones. We think we do, but it's an illusion. So we as humanity have to be very careful whether governments, whether corporations, whether nefarious individuals have access to our brains. So this technology could be incredibly powerful. It could actually unify the humanity by making us all one giant organism. But it could also threaten our individuality. It could threaten somebody could control us through our brains without us knowing about it, just like the rat. Or they could transplant memories, take memories from other people and put it into our brains. We need to think about all these things before this technology hits the market. And if there's a word of warning for everybody here, look at what we're doing with AI. Are we slowing down AI development? Even though we know there could potentially be big problems, are we putting safety first? Well, no, right? The AI companies, Sam Altman, OpenAI, he got rid of his nonprofit board because they were too concerned about safety. With brain-computer interfaces, in 10 years, it could be the same situation. So this is what I want you to think about. This is why I'm giving this lecture, because I think it's very important for us to start addressing these issues now and putting safeguards in place. So thank you so much. If you want to reach out to me for any reason, my email is me@founderspace.com. You can contact me. And I look forward to meeting many of you at the conference today. Thank you.